consciousness that is on its way to changing this planet, so those right now who go out and take a look at it can't even see it because they don't know what a Wi-Fi is. 3 steps removed from what's coming. I hope this isn't too cryptic for you to understand. No one can see it if they've never had it, if it's never been experienced. You don't know what humanity looks like working at 44%. You just don't. You don't know what benevolence looks like if you've never had it. Can you imagine a planet that works together? Can you imagine a political system that isn't angry with each other? No. How's your Wi-Fi? It's coming in ways you don't expect. It's coming in channeled systems that you've never seen. It's coming in inventions that will change everything you do. That's what's in the future, unseeable by so many who are so proud of being able to go and see what they see. I give you this news so you'll have an understanding of perhaps what you'll hear even through channeling. Let the purity of this message not be lost. You have free will to accelerate it or slow it down. That is free will. There may be some obstacles you have to get through, humanity, but you will get through them because the ball is rolling. The snowball is rolling down the hill, and there's no trees in sight for it to hit. How fast it goes depends on the physics of gravity, which you can control with consciousness. That's a metaphor. That's all I'll say now. The relationship between the parts of you is the secret to peace within you, to peace within humanity, and an accelerated graduating earth. Let it be. And so it is. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. The voice you hear indeed represents the energy of the creative source. That is God to some, spirit to others, whatever you want to call it. We have discussed what the creative source is and what it is not. A benevolent source that knows you. Unbelievable to some that the human being individually would be known by the one or many, the soup, the creation that was responsible for setting the universe in motion. And the reason for this personal touch, you might say, is because in you is part of the Creator. We've told you this before. The system is complete because you are part of God. It's important, especially in this new energy, that you really cognize this and feel this. We go back again to the ancients to see what they would say. For instance, what is the first organized spiritual system on the planet thousands of years ago? What was their first intuition about who humanity was? And the answer is God inside. There are still cultures, many of them, millions of individuals on the planet who would greet you with a namaste, the acknowledgement of my God inside me greets the God in you. God inside is not a foreign concept. Do you realize the connection that is possible here? Dear ones, with the DNA working at the degree it is, the shallowness of all of it, as you progress and as you have an elegance of the divine evolvement which is at hand, the first thing that's going to happen is that connection's going to get better. And the God inside becomes the God outside and inside. But for now, I want you to really, really cognize that you come into this planet with the Creator inside you. This is reasonable and logical for the test of the planet, for the souls that have to come here and work the issue. There has got to be creation in each of you. If that's the case, I'm going to ask the big question of the evening. When you sit to meditate, when you sit to pray, when you worship, why do you lift your hands and pray to somebody other than the God inside? Humanity is going to have to start understanding in this new energy, the way to the future is not an externalness, it's an internalness. Look at what has happened and what it's become. The God inside from the ancients has become the God outside. You didn't just remove God from your bodies in this society. You made it so humans were useless and worthless and born dirty and had to grovel and crawl even to be noticed by this Creator. It's a disservice. It's a dysfunction to the entire body. When God is inside, the evolution of the human spirit will have a great catalyst, and that will be the belief of starting to activate the internal compass. Your consciousness to this point has always had a lack of self-worth. God inside is a beautiful concept and it didn't stick. And now we start asking you to create something that is going to be understood by you but not practiced by you. A concept that says you leave divine because you were born magnificent. And you were. The first breath you took, the soul that entered your body, all of the planning that gets you here creates a magnificence, a beauty that is seen by Spirit and God as beautiful, and yet you don't. And now it is time to start reevaluating what's in there. The internal compass is more than just intuition. It is God inside of every single human being asking to be activated. You still are guilty, are you not, of a bias where even when you meditate, you're looking at an external source. Dear Spirit, I want this. Help me with this. Dear Spirit, I love you. What if you internalized it and called it what it is? In an older energy, we taught you that the best question you could ever ask of God is, tell me what I need to know. And now we're saying the question is the same. But now you're going to start asking God inside. Internalization of this issue means that when you sit to meditate, you honor your body first, because that is where God is, in every single piece of DNA. Hundreds of trillions of pieces. God's in all of them. There is a piece of you which is quantum. A very small part of the DNA molecule has been proven to have a quantum attribute. That is just part of what we speak of. There's more than you think in there. If God is inside, you ought to be able to sit down and meditate and start pulling forward that which you need as your internal compass, because you are calling on the source which has always been there. Not the source that sits in the sky, the source that's inside. And to make it easier for you, you might reframe the way you speak or think. And you might start with, "Dear Spirit inside, tell me what it is I need to know. Activate my internal compass so that I will be able to sense the direction and not worry. Dear Spirit inside, quench the fear that I have about anything. Dear Spirit inside, show me the peace that passes all understanding, because I'm worried. Dear Spirit inside, I'm afraid. Activate that which I know is inside me so that every single cell can feel what I know is there. I am eternal. Give me the peace, the quietness, and do it now." Has it ever occurred to you that your consciousness can speak to the Creator inside your body? Look at this pathway that you've all but ignored as you search other places. We've said it before, in the scenario of today, somehow you have got to the place where you've eliminated Gaia, you've made God dysfunctional. It's a God who loves you so much you're going to burn in hell if you say the wrong thing. That's not God. Would you do it to your kids? That's not God. Inside you is the whole engine. It's all there. And it's time for you now to take it, kickstart it, and see it. Is it possible that every single cell of your body knows what I'm talking about? We've spoken about the field. We've given you two major channels on the benevolence of the field. Some have called it entrainment. There is a field of physics that wants harmony, that puts things together in a synchronous fashion. We've even called it physics with an attitude, because it's not fair, it's not neutral, it's benevolent. And in this new energy, you're going to see this manifest itself every single time you ask it to. This is the wind at your back, finally. This is the help you ask for, finally. And it comes not from the sky, but absolute normal physics. It can be measured. There's a reality in your court that wants to help you activate the internal compass. You wake up at 3:30. I know who's here. And some of you wonder, what'll I worry about now? Because that's the pattern, isn't it? Years and years and years. You assemble the worries and the fears, you make a laundry list, and then you present them to God. How linear of you. What if you woke up at 3 and said, "Thank you, Spirit, internally for waking me up. Dear God inside, show me why I'm awake. Oh, I see. so you could hold my hand and tell me you love me. So I could go back to sleep and be more peaceful than I ever was. Thank you, God inside. There is no thing too great for the God inside. No matter what you're feeling, no matter what anxiousness you have, no matter what is there that you think may be even permanent, no matter what you're going through, there is a bridge to the God inside that will wipe it away, and the peaceful river of love will flow through you like it never has before. People will see it in you. People experiencing some of the things you have to experience will see it in you because you've mastered it. You discovered where God is. And the irony of it, you've just returned to the past. The ancients knew it all along. And now you're just reawakening some of the most profound knowledge of humanity. It hasn't even been hidden. It's just that you had to get to the place where you wanted to see it, to awaken it. Part of the spiritual awakening in this new energy is awareness of things that are there that you didn't see before. Of you accepting concepts that you never considered before. Of having the thought that perhaps they belong to you instead of to a guru or the channeler. That indeed all of the equipment for everything we're talking about is already in place. And it's been sleeping a long time. Sleeping. The whole idea of awakening something that's been asleep is no more just a metaphor. It is reality. But that's the way it feels. You walk out of the room with a new awareness, but perhaps a new paradigm. Stop looking outside yourself for answers, because they've always been in you. Meditate the same as you always have meditated. But what you're now doing is balancing internally that which will manifest externally in your actions, in your consciousness, in how you treat others, and how you greet the God inside of anyone who comes in your path. We have spoken over and over about compassionate action. We've talked about a change of consciousness that makes your actions different. We said this leads to healthy things. It leads to longer life. This is the evolvement of the new human being. But this is a major hurdle. Listen to the way you meditate and pray. Add the word inside every time you mention Spirit, every time you mention God. Dear God inside, dear Spirit inside. And your body is going to get used to this. It's going to own it. It's going to start understanding you have cognized the divine creator inside yourselves. It's step one to so many things that you have that you didn't think you could do. Now I know who's in the room. I know who's listening. What have you got right now that is so sorrowful, or that creates worry and fear? What is it about humanity that lets you project the worst into something worse? And so whatever it is that you fear, then you create a bigger monster. This is the old energy paradigm that will completely and totally be wiped away by dear God inside. Darkness cannot exist when love rules.
Hatred cannot be there when joy rules. Sorrow cannot exist when laughter is the king. And this is the teaching of the day, of the year, of the century. You turn the corner, dear God inside, and you join the ancients who knew it from the beginning, for it was intuitive. And then when you have time, and when you want to, I want you to walk outside to where the trees are and the dirt, not the cement, where your feet can touch the dirt. And you can say something that Gaia has wanted to hear for centuries. I want you to say, my God inside says, welcome home. You're going to start collecting energy from the source of Gaia itself, because that is your partner here. You cannot survive without it. We're in a place where there's many farmers. You ask them, they know. Farmers have a tendency to go barefoot when no others would. And you'd say, why would you do that? And they would say, because I want the dirt between my toes. Because I can feel that which is the energy of the dirt of the divine. And it soothes my soul. It's the step after God inside. No matter where you live, you can do this. You can go where it exists and do this. And I'll tell you, you're going to receive a revelation of energy when you start including Gaia yet again. But dear ones, first is God inside. The externalization of where and how God works converted to the internalization of the reality of how God works is the key. Did you know that when you start that, your biology starts to shift? Did you know that your chemistry will start to shift? Did you know that the benevolence of the field will have a greater impact upon your health? Because suddenly you are allied with things that you never were before. If God is external, how are you ever going to internalize your health? If God is external, how are you ever going to have the peace inside? If God is external, what's it all about? Why do you exist? The logic of this should be clear, because there is no external. You are God. And collectively, your consciousness will change the planet because you are God. There's more. We'll continue at another time. Dear ones, as you sit listening, all of you, I want you to know that this message is so filled with a word that my partner can't conceive of because it doesn't exist. There's no word of how much the Creator is part of you. There's a confluence of love that flows from the other side of the veil directly to you when you cognize and understand and internalize the Creator. As long as we're outside of you, it just sits there. When you bring it in, you're going to live longer. When you bring it in, it starts to be complete. I'm Kryon. I would not tell you these things if they were not so. The new human is beginning to arrive. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's a sweet place, this. The message is a continuation of the messages we have given so far in this which is called the Monument Valley Tour. It's message number 6. It's given on February 14th in your year of 2019, which according to your culture and your custom is Love Day. The message today would be no different than any other about love, except that it's more appropriate than ever. So again, dear ones, please allow me, with the blessing of the ancestors in this place, to one more time, for the ears perhaps of those who have not heard it, to reveal some things that we've revealed before, perhaps a little differently, that talks about the majesty of the creative source. Almost every human on the planet, no matter what belief system, knows about the creative source. And as the belief would go, the entire universe was created by one source. Infinitely small you are compared to the universe, and yet infinitely large is the creative source. And if you wanted to put a personality on that source, as often you do as humans, the source is love. Pure love. Nothing but love. As pure as light can be, it is with no darkness at all. Beautiful, benevolent, compassionate love. And we've said it before, as much love as you can imagine for your friends, your pets, your child. It's 1,000 times what that is. And it's focused, dear ones, on the living portions of the creative source, which is you. Dear ones, there's other life in this galaxy, and it's focused on that as well. The creative source is the source of everything. And there's love imbued in that purity in everything. And the reason I start with this yet again, is to let you know that you, dear ones, have created this veil that you look through to that love. And on this side of the veil, this being where we are right now, this human side, you have duality. And in the duality, there is positive, there is negative, there's light, there's dark, there's all kinds of things which are created by what you call human nature. And it's actually appropriate, fair, and correct, because this gives you the free choice. Because you can see the things that are yin and yang, positive and negative, and you make the choice. But let me tell you something. On the other side of the veil, that creative source, which is so big you can't imagine it, there is no duality there. And there would be those who would say, of course there's no duality there, and they would nod their head. And yes, but really, truly, do you understand this? There's only duality here. And yet, there are so many who will then take the duality that is here in this small little earth, where you struggle with a low percentage of light. And you struggle with your duality, and you struggle to improve constantly with free choice. But you take that struggle and you place it upon what you believe is on the other side of the veil. And you have made God then dysfunctional at the core. You've taken this love, pure source, and you've said, well, we are humans. All we know is human nature. Therefore, everything has to be like us. And then there is an angry God. And one who does not get pleased all the time, and one who will actually torture children. And this is the belief system about that beautiful creative source. And again, I will tell you, you've taken yourselves and pasted it on that which is sacred. Let's speak about where that leads and what happens. Because the next step is the creation then of sin. And if you would then ask those who believe in the sin, what is it? Define sin. It's that which displeases God. Anything that displeases God then is sin. And then if there is sin, there must be forgiveness. Let me tell you something, dear ones. Pure love, at the absolutely purest of love, is unable to be displeased. God does not have a human brain that has pleasure and not pleasure, or judgment or not judgment. Pure love is pure love. It doesn't even enter. It cannot. It's like taking the purest light you could ever imagine and trying to throw mud at it and thinking it'll stick like it sticks on you. And yet there are billions on the planet that have put mud on God. Forgiveness, dear ones, in a spiritual world is almost an industry. I want you to think for a moment. If you took children and wanted to make a test of their free will, and you put them in a dark place where they could barely see, and then they run into walls and they run into each other, and every time they run into a wall or run into each other, you dock them and call it sin, and you punish them. You take them out, punish them, put them back. Because they ran into a wall because they couldn't see well. That's exactly what you have said God does to you. Not all of you, but billions of you. And this, dear ones, will be part of the shift, a spiritual awakening of logic. God is not human. God would not do that. And yet sin has created forgiveness, an industry. If you don't think it's an industry, even within the spiritual, just look at your history. We sat in a place you would call Italy, and we spoke of a man you would call Francis, in a place you would call Assisi. And the most sacred of leaders at that point in time was the Pope in Italy. And that Pope at that moment was selling forgiveness of sin. Inappropriate to the max, you might say. And Francis saw it because Francis was pure and he was filled with the love of the creative source. He wasn't filled with the pompousness of the Pope. The story of Francis is quite amazing. For today he's Saint Francis, and yet he never was a priest. But he was attractive. Like any other master of this planet who is pure, he was attractive because of his purity and his love. And even the priests of the church were attracted to him because of what he believed and said, how he acted, what he did in his life, what he showed people he could be. That was Francis. We've told you before that he bribed the Pope. For he needed money for his enclave. He needed money for his animals. He needed money for his hospital. And so he told the Pope something because the Pope met with him. He had to because he was pulling away priests. He was becoming dangerous in his purity.
And he said to the Pope, if you'll give me the money for these things, I will then stop being that attractive, because you will then stop selling forgiveness of sin. And that was the agreement. And in the church in Francis of Assisi, there's even a painting that portrays it, although the people who would then guide you through that church won't then identify that painting of that way. In fact, that painting shows Francis of Assisi and the Pope meeting with a scroll of demands from Francis to the Pope. A list, you might say, an agreement, you might say, so the Pope would stop selling sin forgiveness. The guides will tell you it's a list of Francis' sins. I'm going to tell you it's in a contract that changed who the Pope was, changed the church, and made it more pure. That's the kind of an industry forgiveness has become to some. In some ways, it becomes an industry of fear. If you don't have that kind of forgiveness from a God who's going to judge you, from that pure love thing, then there's the fear of what might happen to your soul. And these things, dear ones, are not from God. They cannot be from the pure source of light and love, which is not a consciousness of a human. It has come from humans to humans, humanity, systems. The most inappropriate thing that is here today on this planet is fearing the source of light, when all that source wants to do is love you. Love is the message of the day. Earlier today, dear ones, you had a forgiveness exercise, but it had nothing to do with a spiritual forgiveness. It had to do with human to human. And that is the forgiveness I want to speak of. I want to talk about what it means, and perhaps in a way you haven't heard before. I want you to right now relax in the arms of God, whatever that word means to you, just for a moment, and see that precious pure light as I tell you this story. The story is, again, a logic story. More than that, it defines the attributes of your brain. So you'll understand what you're doing when you start to forgive. Coming right from the light, right now, I want to show you this. When each of you were a child, there came a time when you had that moment where you would burn your hand or your arm or your leg with something hot. It happens to every child, because as much as their parents will warn them against heat, there comes a time when you test it. And at that moment when you burn your hand or your finger, as a child, dear ones, even before you can speak, that episode will etch itself into the neurons of your brain, in the synapse of the place in the bundles where memories are kept. The burning of the hand is there all your life. Now, the reason I tell you this, in a moment you'll find out, it's permanent. It would be nice if you could undo it, if you could delete it, but you can't. Your brain is not like the current day computer. There's no delete key. It stays there. It stays there. Now, in the case of burning your hand, it's survival. It stays there because it needs to stay there, so you won't forget it. But that's the way of the brain. But it also happens with something else. Dear ones, it happens with betrayal. It happens with unkindness. It happens with the trauma of experience. It happens with abusive parents to children.
all of that etched upon the brain. And at time, perhaps even when you're an adult, when you have betrayal, when you have these kinds of things, it etches itself in the same place where you burned your hand. And in those places, it stays, and you can't undo it. And so today, you went through an exercise where you might have written some of those things down, and it might have been difficult to even write them. Because these are the things you want to forget. Because to remember them brings up all the feelings again, just like burning your hand. And all of those feelings will come to a head, and there will be tears, and there will be uncomfortableness and sorrow. And so most of you stay away from those things, but all of you have them to some degree, more than others for some. And you wrote them down, which was difficult, and you burned them in a significant ceremony to say, they're gone. This is how I see it. They're gone. But I just told you they're not. But your ceremony is telling your brain that they are. Let me tell you what you did today, and anyone else listening, and the parables I've given in the past about what a Lemurian woman would do as she burns the leaf that she has etched on these things into the volcano fire. Because I've even channeled before that this is an appropriate thing to do, as you did today. So let me give you a vision of how you take something in your brain that is forever until your last breath, just like burning your hand, and instead you transform it. Whatever that was that you wrote on the piece of paper, or for those listening who didn't do the exercise, whatever it is that you could think of that is the betrayal of the thing that eats at you at night when you sleep or doesn't let you sleep. The thing that can't forget because it was so awful to you, so uncomfortable, so sorrowful to you. Whatever it is, even if it's a memory where you're asking forgiveness of yourself because you keep bringing it up and beating yourself like a little whip with it, it's still there. So I want you to have this vision of what really might be happening in your brain, what you do. And it has to do with the power of compassion and love. In the yin and yang scenario, in the black and white scenario, of all the things that a human being can do, one of the most beautiful things is this. You have a piece of the creative source in you that is multidimensional and goes beyond that which any human being could do by themselves, and it's called the higher self. That higher self, think of this, it's your soul that has one foot on the other side of the veil and one foot here, metaphorically, as it would stand there. It is the conduit, the bridge, the one that you're always trying to get to. But let me tell you, here's where you can use it. Because that higher self is also like a direct contact, conduit, wire, whatever, to the purest light and love you can imagine. And so let's see if you can vision this because of what you did today with the fire, and you have that pure, bright light like a searing fire, except it's not a destructive fire. It's an encompassing connection that circles the memory with compassion. There it is in your brain, and I want you to see, coming from the other side of the veil, a shell. You can't delete it biologically, but here comes that beautiful shell of compassion that is so beautiful and so loving, and it encircles that memory, that thing that you want to have go away, that you say, I want to forgive that person or those people or myself, whatever that's the encompassing shell of multidimensional light that encompasses and forgives. And it goes right around that memory in your brain, so that every single time you go back to that, it's covered with forgiveness, compassion, and love, and you can never get to that hurtful place again. So complete would it be that you could even go in there with a set of tools, and you can't get to it. So what you've done is, instead of eliminating it, you've transmuted it, covered it with love. This has to make sense to you. The vision is more accurate than you know. It has to do with complex consciousness, dear ones. And so we've simplified it so that it can be visualized and acted upon and understood. There are those who will tell you that those things that you wrote on the paper are forever. And I'm here to say they're right. But how you treat them and how they work with your consciousness from now on in your life is not forever and can be transmuted. Psychologists have worked on this for decades. And here it is yet again, in a way I'm presenting. And I'm telling you this, it's permanent. In a linear world, there are so many things that you do over and over and over and over because more is better. In a multidimensional world, once you throw the switch, it's forever. That's much different. There'll be those who tell you how many times you have to count the beads in order for certain things to happen, or how many times you have to say a phrase before God will hear you. I'm telling you this, God knows you so well that if you simply look into the eyes of the Creator, it's gone. One time. That's how powerful you are with yourself. So I want you one more time to envision that burning piece of paper today that you had. And see not only the paper smoldering and going away, but suddenly the connection to the other side of the veil coming in and covering those things, whether it was you who had to forgive yourself or you're forgiving somebody else. Doesn't matter. Whatever memory. There's somebody in the audience needs to hear this because there was a death of a child. And that is something profound, Mom. You're never going to forget that. And it's so sorrowful. You start putting that together, where you put that compassion, and then you start having all of these revelations. And the revelation is that the soul of the child is still here smiling and saying, thanks, Mom. I never wanted to etch something in there like that. I want you to listen. Only wanted love, only wanted love, only wanted love. The person you're forgiving on the planet, they may or may not still be alive. It's the best they could do in that yin and yang world. It's the best they had. And it wasn't good enough for you. And it etched something in your brain. Today you cover it with that compassion from the source and the light. So you can't get to it anymore. And suddenly you start to breathe easier and saying, it's like I just dropped a big suitcase of lead. That I'm free. It's almost like I can float now. So I don't have to take that anymore. I don't have to bring that around, and I don't have to drag it like an anchor, because you've covered it with compassion. This is as good as it gets, dear ones, for a human being to be balanced. You can't carry these things and call yourself a balanced human being, because you're out of balance. You're always dragging something around. And so this is how it's done. And it shouldn't surprise you on this Valentine's Day that I would yet again tell you about the incredible love that is on the other side of the veil for you. Not anger, not fear. God does not think like a human being. God, the creative source, if you can even say think, has no thoughts except, if you had to say what is a thinking God, it is one who projects, propels, and throws light and love and compassion as best can to you through a dark and dim place. that you are slowly creating light within. And that is why we are so excited about the shift. Because there'll come a time when that dimness will go away. And the veil starts to become thinner. Mark my word, there'll be a day when you look back sometime in human history and you will see all the things that I have mentioned about the projection of the human onto God as a children's story. And you'll know the truth. God is love. And so it is.
So as we begin to bring the energy into a quieter place, a more receptive place, just let your body and your consciousness settle a little bit in this moment. And take a breath. And know that there is nothing for you to do, just to be right here with us, with the beautiful energy of love and family. And let yourself feel the blessings in the room that you create, that we create together. Feeling the energy of the cosmos coming in through the crown of your head and just settling for a moment in your heart, saying hello. And then moving through your body, down your legs, into your feet, connecting with our beautiful Mother Gaia, right here, right now in this room. And letting yourself just find the stillness of that connection between heaven and earth. And in that stillness is that beautiful heart of yours, that space where your breath lives, where your light lives, where the softness of divine love always lives for you. Even when we forget, it's still there waiting for you to take another breath and move through your body, your consciousness, into that place of receiving divine love.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Take a moment and honor that which is here. I would not tell you things that are not so. There is a maturity of awareness that is in the room, that lays upon you like a blanket of benevolence, as it honors the role of the old soul in the future. And what we are going to speak of in these short moments has been spoken of many times through the years. And we're going to give a summation of it today, pulling it all together. In this particular year, the year of 2, we call it year 2 because it is the second year of acceleration of the new energy. The first year being 2014, this being the second. Things are beginning to shift on the planet dramatically. Unexpected things to your psyche are before you. We have told you not to despair, do not worry, that it is part of a recalibration of everything. And we've asked you to see and feel the benevolence of God in all of it.
And then there are the instructions for you. Old soul, you are beginning to recalibrate how you feel about God. What follows should have a title. And humans love titles, so we will call it Accelerated Awareness, the Rise of Spiritual Common Sense. It is time for you to finally understand and separate in a mature way the consciousness of the Creator versus the consciousness of a human. Many years ago, I told my partner to write a book called Don't Think Like a Human. To this day, the title is catchy, and many agree that this would be nice. Now, it's a prerequisite. And we're going to give you a number of attributes. I'll even call them items that are things to work on and understand and to realize that are involved in everyday life, and you will relate to these things because they are how humanity has worked with God in the past. We've given you channels through the years that told you not to take the consciousness of humans and place it upon God. And this is another one of them. Only this one is maybe perhaps a wrap-up in the reality of what follows in your lives for you to take this information seriously. Pass it around. Give others the information, perhaps by having them read or listen to these words as we discuss a beautiful, beautiful system. Dear ones, how do you perceive God? In an old energy, that is to say, the energy that humans have always been in up to this point, there has been perhaps a bias. And the bias is that you think of God as a parent figure. You even name some of your religious leaders Father. And the paradigm of parenting, therefore, is what you would then apply to the Creator of the universe. It's the best you have. It's honoring in your mind. But dear ones, in the parenting and humans to children, you have also applied all of the other human attributes that parents would have, that fathers would have. And they would be a list that is endless. And they would all be human emotion. Anger. Punishment. Control. Do as you're told. Authority. On and on. You have the idea that God is the shepherd and you are the sheep. And this has been used over and over in a very benevolent way of how you should then see the Creator of the universe. The father syndrome. It's the first one we tell you to break. 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 There is no relationship like parenting when it comes to the Almighty. You are family, but we are not parents. We are the family with you. We are your best friend, your brother, and your sister. We are spiritual lovers of humanity. There is no anger. There is no punishment. There is no punishment. Dear ones, your life here is by your agreement with the Creator in order for a test of energy, and that is all it is. You're not in a scenario of good and bad punishment. All of the things that humans do with humans. It's not what God does. How can we then show you or tell you? Can you understand the statement, the creator of the universe is not a human? Does not have human consciousness, does not have human nature, therefore does not have anger, does not have punishment, doesn't want to control, and you're not sheep. Could it be any clearer? The closer you get to the source which is inside you, which is God, the more you will feel this arrangement we have. One single hand reaches out to you that is the creator and is all that is, asking you to take it, not so you will be controlled as sheep, but so you'll be included in the creative source. The closer you get through your higher self to that which is this creative source which you call God, the stronger influence of compassion you will have on this planet. Like the masters that came before you, who were not angry and who did not punish and did not want you to be sheep. That's number one. Could it be any clearer? To change the paradigm of the relationship to the part of you which is creation. We're looking at all of these things closely. And we have so many of them. There are those in this room who wanted to hear this, who've been climbing steps all their life in order to satisfy something they believe that Spirit wants, who have suffered enough. I want to just hear these few things that you should know. Dear ones, there is no hierarchy. Could it be that there is nobody in charge? It is a human attribute. Don't you understand this? In order for you to group together and accomplish anything, there's a structure. It's human. It's everywhere. There's always somebody in charge. Always. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, even the hermit in the field, somebody owns the field. Someone's in charge. Somebody has to be there. Even in the middle of the ocean, someone's in charge. You'll say, well, now it is Neptune. Now it is Mother Nature. There's always a force above you. And you apply that situation, a hierarchy, to God. You have created that which is hierarchical even in the angels. You have master angels. You have ones that are in charge of others. You've got books filled of who answers to whom. And they don't. And they don't. You see, the structure of spirit, of what you call God, is different than you would imagine. There is one consciousness that is in charge. And one consciousness is also the family. It is hard to describe to you a multidimensional aspect that you do not have. Imagine for a moment there was a consciousness that everyone had, and you were all in charge. If you had that, then there would be no followers. There would be no less than. You'd all know what to do instantly and would do it in complementary fashion with the others because you were all in charge. You saw what had to be done. You would then have the solutions all together as one. That is the mind of God. The angelic beings are not in a hierarchy. You say there is Archangel Michael. Michael would be the first to tell you there isn't. But honors the fact that you would see there was in order to facilitate yourselves and be comfortable in 3D. Do you see? It is time to get out of the fallacies of an old energy where you apply all human nature to God. Number 3, you always have to pay something to get something. You have applied this to absolutely everything in your life. Even physics sees a certain way of the way things work in 3-dimensional, where there's no such thing as free energy. It simply changes its form. You've got to pay the price in order to move from A to B. There has to be a transition. Even in physics, energy must move this way in order for you to get this. There is a payment plan for everything. And you applied that to God. Oh, did you? So here comes the creating force of the universe. And the first thing you're going to ask is, what do I have to do? If you give up your energy, if you're going to count some beads, if you're going to do something, it's going to be to pay spirit so that you can exist as good in the eyes of God. Let me tell you something. You are born magnificent and perfect and always are. Always are. There is nothing you can do that will diminish you in the eyes of the Creator. Oh, you may disappoint yourself. You may disappoint society. You are here for a reason, and the test is here. You may make some funny decisions that other humans don't like, and God loves you the same. Did you hear that? And when you die and transfer energy for a moment to my side of the veil before you return, when you do, there is a party that celebrates that which you did, called living life on the planet and being part of the puzzle. Everyone, from the minister to the one in prison. Do you hear me? And this does not compute, does it? It doesn't work for you. Anyone listening to my voice, I'll tell you, you say, there has to be a punishment, a payment. You have to pay to get something. No, you don't. You arrived on this planet on purpose, and you didn't pay anybody to get here. And it wasn't a punishment. Why do you assign negative and positive energies to everything that happens? And you do. That is human nature. Every single organization that is spiritual, including this one, if you want to call it an organization, it's an organization of consciousness, has that in it. There's got to be something you must do to have the favor of God. And then you ask, am I doing it right? Oh, yes, you are. By being in the chair and loving God, you're doing it right. There are certain societies where human beings act like children who are spiritual and they don't know any better. And it still goes on. Charlatans who know far, far better will tell you that for a certain price they can forgive your sins or propel you in heaven or even affect your ancestors, and you hand over the money. This is still on today. Dear old soul, break this paradigm in any way you can. When anybody talks to you about reward and punishment and payment, when it comes to the Almighty, you tell them you're part of the family and you're all paid up, all right? There are those, so many, who besiege God right now, right this moment, in prayer, bending over and saying, how can we get clean in the eyes of God? And they don't know that they were never dirty. Who told them they were dirty? And why would they? Break the paradigm. Born magnificent, family and clean forever. Your timing, number 4, is not God's timing. And yet you make it that way. It's a habit that way. My partner even gave a full lecture series and recorded a video about it because it is so prevalent among you. Somebody has to hear this. You came today to hear this. When you get a strong intuition about something that may be in your future, you take it and you hold it to yourself and you thank God for finally giving you some instructions on what to do. You're going to go over here, you're going to start a school, you're going to write a book. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. And then you do it. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work spectacularly. It fails. Use the word. And then what do? You do the human thing. You say, what did I do wrong? How did I displease God? All of those things are simply running in circles of human nature and not having any idea about how the Creator works. If any of you at any time get a message about something that is coming or an inkling or a feeling, I want you to promise me you'll have common sense that is spiritual and see it for what it is. What it is a potential that may very well happen, and the synchronicity will be created when it's time and not on your clock. I want to show you why you do what you do, and we've discussed this before. All of human nature has the authority figure asking you to do something or telling you to do something, and you doing it immediately. When your father said, clean up your room, when were you supposed to do it? When your boss tells you they want something, when were you supposed to do it? And the answer is always now. So Spirit gives you intuition about something that's going to happen, something that's in the works, or for you, something you're supposed to do, and you instantly knee-jerk it into reality now. And it fails. Promise me that you will have the wherewithal and the maturity to say, thank you, God, for this information. It's beautiful. And I will wait patiently for the synchronicity that will begin to realize and fulfill this. For I am family and I understand the principles of synchronicity and the timing of Spirit. I want you to see it in the bigger picture. Just because you got the message or the inkling. But that you will wait in a mature fashion for the timing of Spirit and know it when you see it and be comfortable with it. Old soul, mature common sense should prevail. Number 5, the last one. Purpose. How many sales meetings have you attended? And they all tell you the same thing. In order to have something happen, you have to have a goal. It would be helpful to paste things magnetically on the refrigerator to remind you. Maybe you should go to meetings where other people have the same goals and reiterate them. None of that is what God has. None of that. And we said it before. Your purpose on the planet has nothing to do with your works. Did you hear that? There are sayings that some of you have heard all your life. By your works will you be known. Let me tell you another saying. By your magnificence on the planet will you be known. Which is you in the chair listening today. How about that? By your magnificence of being a human and going through this will you be known. Not by what you do while you're here. The magnificence of the old soul will be increased even more through compassionate action, and we have said that. That's what you're here for. If you really want a goal, I will give it to you. Compassionate action. Live like a master. And you will say to me, it's hard. And I will say to you, that's why we call you light worker. It's hard. It is. You have the maturity and the life experience on this planet to achieve all that you set out to achieve. In this life and others that you will live, by your magnificence will you be known as those who will create peace on earth and take it into ascension eventually. That's how we know you, family. By your name in lights. Your name sung in the light form. That's how we know you. And that's real different from having a goal. All of the things that we have given you this day are things of human nature pasted upon the countenance of God. And it would include almost every single one of the structures of that which is spiritual in any organization on the planet. And we ask you to change it. And when you begin to do this, dear ones, you're going to find an increase in love, benevolence, understanding, and peace. You realize there's no more steps to climb to please God. All you have to do is open the door and take the hand of the family that you are. Could it be simpler? Dear ones, this is the message. Profound, complete. And so it is.